Welcome to the Respectful Divorce Podcast. If you're considering divorce, it's important to know that you have options for how you divorce. On the Respectful Divorce Podcast, we explore those options and provide advice from divorce professionals. I'm your host, Tim Crouch, and today we're talking with members of the St. Louis Collaborative Law Association, Susan Amato, a collaborative divorce lawyer, and Catherine Hasler, a divorce coach in the collaborative process. Thank you both for being with us today.
Thank you.
Our pleasure.
So let me just begin with this very broad kind of question. Why did you all get involved in family law and then ultimately in the collaborative process? And Susan, we'll start with you on that.
All right. Well, the family law question, just as a young lawyer, it's what landed on my desk in the firm that I was with. I did one or two litigated divorces as a young family lawyer and thought there has got to be a better way to solve these problems. So this was in the 80s and mediation was just at its infancy. So I took mediation training and I started mediating divorces, and that was great. And I thought helped a lot of people. But for some people, it wasn't enough help. And so over the years, I'm just working along and thinking, what to do to help people who still would have benefited from a non-adversarial process get the help they need when mediation wasn't enough. And then the concept of collaborative came across my desk, and I thought, now that sounds like a great idea. Did some reading about it, rounded up some of my like-minded colleagues, and we have a fantastic collaborative community in St. Louis now.
Yeah. And Catherine, as a mental health professional, you probably saw a lot of things related to family law. How did you then begin that transition to collaborative?
That's a great question. Yeah, so you're right. I've been a child psychologist for over 25 years. And so through my practice, I've seen many families who've gone through various types of divorce processes and seeing the impact on children, not just during the process, but after the process, right? Seeing the impact on their mental health, on their relationships with their parents, their developing relationships with others. I really wanted to be part of another type of way of supporting kids that are going through this. And a colleague of Susan, mine, who has since retired, but is a stalwart figure in our group still, Dr. Nancy Williger, was in the process of retiring and was kind enough to introduce me to CFLA and this concept of being a coach or a child specialist. I can do both in the process to try and help families have a more, we say collaborative, but it's really more peaceful in the long term relationship with each other, because they learn communication skills that they need to work with their kids moving forward as co-parents.
So as someone who sort of has seen the divorce process from your perspective, Catherine, what is it that makes the collaborative process different and better than the litigated process?
Well, it starts with the very idea that these parents know that they're going to be continuing to be parents to their children post-divorce, that they're going to need to continue to communicate. People who go through the litigation process become farther and farther apart. They're positioned to be adversaries and to hurt each other in the process of divorce, as opposed to finding commonalities that they each have in wanting to support their children, even if they can no longer do that in the same home. So what I've seen is a huge difference in what this is like for children to see their parents still trying to work together for their benefit, even if they can no longer stay together, versus having them see their parents go through fighting in a court that sometimes goes on for years.
So tell me a little more, Catherine, about your role as a mental health professional in the collaborative process.
Absolutely. There's actually two roles that I can serve. And the first is coach. And the way that the coach is part of the team is they are a neutral person who works with the two lawyers who are working with each of the individuals divorcing. And there's also a neutral financial specialist who work as a team to help the family deal with the emotional, financial, and legal parts of a divorce. We often talk about how it's not just a legal process. It's also a separation emotionally, financially. So the financial person and the coach are neutrals, and the lawyers try to work as collaboratively as they can. They're not neutral because they're still, I'll let Sue speak to that. They're still there to advocate for their specific client. But if collaborative's working well, you can't really tell whose lawyer is who in the meetings. We're looking for solutions that work for everyone. The mental health professional as coach runs the meetings, takes the temperature in the room, tries to keep everything moving forward in the most positive way that they can, dealing with some of those emotional issues that come up during the process, might meet with each of the individuals individually or together without the team to work through some of those issues. It's not therapy. It's definitely a coaching model about how to communicate more effectively about their kids. The other role that a mental health professional can play is that of child specialist. And of course, that's only for mental health professionals who have a background in working with kids, which I do, so I can play either role. The child specialist is someone who brings the voice of the children into the divorce process without the kids having to testify. I mean, there are parents who actually have their kids on a stand, talking about their feelings to a judge. And that's just so harmful to the kids. This instead is a mental health professional with a background in kids and family systems who hears from the kids kind of what their experience is and can help the parents with a parenting plan that works for their family, whether that's, the custody schedule or who's in charge of what types of activities, but just really hearing from the kids what they're needing and support. And sometimes we have children who have mental health needs or are neurodiverse. So a child specialist can really bring in that understanding to the divorce process to make sure that the parenting plan that is created is specific to their family and not just some kind of rubber stamp that, a judge might put on without knowing those different issues for the kids.
And Susan, as she talked just a little bit about the role of the attorney, I would think that the transition from being a litigation attorney to collaborative attorney is not easy. That's a different mindset, isn't it?
It is. We call it a paradigm shift, and we work on it every day. I know that all of the collaborative attorneys in our Collaborative Family Law Association think a lot about how to shift from being kind of a gladiator to being a problem solver, looking towards resolution rather than just settlement. A lot of the skills, a lot of us are also trained mediators, and a lot of the skills that we have as mediators also cross over to the collaborative lawyer role. But we are looking out for the needs of our client, and we're looking out for the needs of the family. And we're not looking to prove our case. We're looking to solve the problem in a way that everyone can say yes to. So I always tell clients, you're not going to agree to something that you can't agree to. So you aren't going to leave a collaborative process without something that's good enough that you've said yes to it. And your soon-to-be former spouse sitting across the table also has to say yes. So we need to think about the needs and perspectives of both of you and of the kids in crafting a resolution that works for everybody.
And from what I have heard, one of the real significant benefits of this process is that at the end of the process, the couple have made all the decisions and they own the divorce settlement versus a judge or someone else making decisions for them. Susan?
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly right. That they're intimately involved in all of the decision making. So they really need to understand their financial picture more maybe than they would if they were just kind of slinging mud and having a lawyer try to prove a case for them. And they make decisions that they feel comfortable that they can go forward with.
And the person that helps on understanding the financial piece is a financial professional that serves in the neutral role that Catherine described. How does the financial professional work and engage with the clients in the course of this process?
It's so fantastic to work with a financial professional. They do the legwork at the beginning to help the family gather all of the necessary financial disclosures so that we all have a full picture of what the financial income, tax issues, assets, debts looks like. And they assist in all of the meetings, in laying things out on spreadsheets for us, explaining things, helping us generate options that might expand the post-tax dollars of the family. It's wonderful working with a financial professional in the mix. Sometimes people think, oh, there's so many professionals, that isn't this adding a lot of expense? But the financial professional does a lot of work just with the couple at the beginning to gather all the data. So you really have the person who's the most skilled at that doing the legwork on that piece. When we're making the decisions, everyone's at the table, but the work with a couple on the parenting things is just with a coach. With the financial neutral, is just with the financial person. When you're getting your legal advice, you're just with your lawyer. And then big decisions, everyone's at the table. Working with a financial professional is fantastic.
To add to what Sue was saying, is it can really help if there's an imbalance starting out where one person in the couple has been more in charge of the finances and the other person has not. It helps level the playing field for them in all of the discussions because they get brought up to speed about the finances just through that disclosure process. And, the financial neutral is just laying that out, gathering the information, walking them through what everything is there so that they're on the same field more or less when it comes to generating options. So it's really critical, and they do play a neutral role. So they're not there for either party; they're there for the process, and they can come up with ideas regarding financial options that those of us who are not specialists in the finances wouldn't necessarily be able to come up with. So, as Sue said, it can sound like there's a lot of professionals in the room adding cost, but what we've really found is, well, the way I've always put it with mental health is you either pay now or you pay later, right? So do you hold your money back in the beginning saying, I don't know that I want to pay for a good psychological evaluation, for example, something that I specialize in, and get the correct diagnosis? Do you get the right treatment, or do you just kind of keep, kicking the ball down the line and you're paying money, but it's getting more and more expensive as the problems get bigger. So this really is a way of keeping the family out of court long term, which can be a very expensive process because it's getting to both parties being able to say yes, as Sue said, that they can live with this outcome, whereas the litigation process really puts them in this positional one of you wins, one of you loses type of mindset, which then has people wanting to keep trying to win and come back and keep fighting.
And Susan, how have you seen this make a difference in lives in your clients who had gone through litigation versus those who went through the collaborative process?
The process itself, I mean, a divorce process is stressful. A divorce litigation process is brutal. When you're going through the collaborative process itself, I can't say that it's not stressful because this is a huge transition in people's lives, but you have all of the support in all of the areas to help carry you through. And when you finish, as we've talked about, you have an outcome that is acceptable to you. Instead of, you can wait, you can have a trial and then wait 6 months before you even have a decision. And the decision is made by someone who doesn't know you or maybe even remember all of the details of the evidence that your lawyer put into place. It's the quality of the parenting relationship is better. The feeling we've come to a resolution instead of, as Kathy said, there's a winner and a loser. And when there's a loser, there's resentment. I've seen people move forward in amazing ways after doing a collaborative process.
And one of the things I hear, one of those differences is there's not a lot of, after the divorce is final, ongoing kinds of conflicts in going back to court on other issues. Is that accurate?
That's accurate. And I always say it's great to have a coach in your pocket. So when there's a little problem down the road, you just check back in with a coach, pick it up while it's still a little problem, work on it. And as the lawyer, I often never hear about it. But people do from time to time when there is a bump in the road, because sometimes there is, life is Kids, if they're little at the beginning, you can go through a lot of transitions during the course of the co-parenting relationship, but they check back in with their coach or their child specialist, and that resource is invaluable to people in keeping things on an even keel going forward.
Part of our process is we need to help the family decide how are they going to handle breakdowns in communication or decision making in the future. And what they're usually picking is to come back to the collaborative process. So that is what Sue's mentioning is it may not even become an official, everybody needs to get back together. It might be they're just reaching out to the coach saying, hey, we're having a disagreement about this thing. Can we just have a couple of meetings with you so that we can kind of work through this and see what we're both feeling here and come up. So we've modeled for them. You can have a disagreement and you can come to a conclusion that you can both live with. And that's what we set the stage for. And that's also something that the kids see during this process because they do meet with the child specialist. They see that their parents are trying to work on solutions as opposed to fighting. So it's a modeling of behavior that is really important for the long-term benefit of the kids.
So this is the Respectful Divorce Podcast, and we're doing this ahead of Divorce with Respect Week, which is coming up March 3rd through 9th. In your view, what does it mean to divorce with respect? Susan?
The end of a marriage is a difficult thing. For some people, it's a mutual decision. For others, it maybe isn't. But to go through acknowledging the relationship that you had and enough caring to make sure that everyone in the family is okay going forward, and doing things in a way that I can't say it's easy. I've said this already once, I think, but it's hard to when you're going through the gut-wrenching emotional process of a divorce to say, I'm going to listen to what's important to both people in our family and think about our kids and focus on the well-being of all of us going forward in a new structure. Huge change in our lives, but we're going to try and set everyone on as good a course as we can for the future.
Catherine, what does respect in a divorce look like to you?
Looks like the collaborative process. For me, having seen all the different guys come through my office over a couple of decades, because what Sue said, both parents are looking at what does the whole family need, not in this win-lose kind of way. It's like everybody can win. Everybody can be okay if we can listen to each other. So that's respectful. That's respecting the importance of the relationships over time. It's saying, I respect that you as a person deserve to have a good life moving forward, even if our life is not going to be together. And the modeling, as I said, of, the professionals don't always agree, right? But we model respectful communication for the families, teaching them how to be respectful when disagreeing. So it's, in my mind, the best way to have a respectful divorce.
Yeah. And I guess there's an element that also is maintaining your own self-respect.
Absolutely. Feeling good about how you treated your spouse, now ex-spouse, during the process, feeling that you did the best that you could because they are the other parent of your children. That is showing respect. You can respect what you've done. You can feel that you can have your children's respect, that you were treating their co-parent with respect. And I think that, for the long-term impact on families, I'm really hoping this is where people go with divorce, because it does teach them some skills that maybe if they'd had, they wouldn't be where they are now. But there's too much water under the bridge or too much hurt to go backwards, but they can at least move forward in a new kind of way of communicating about their kids as they co-parent.
We like both parties to be able to look back on their divorce process and say, we comported ourselves in the best way we could through a difficult time in our lives.
Thank you both for being with us today. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way to reach out to you? Susan?
Email is great, Amato at Amato Family Law. And I'll also say that the St. Louis Collaborative Family Law Association has a website that has all of our members' contact information on it.
All right. And Catherine?
And I concur with Sue about the CFLA website, but to get to my office, email is the best. It's info@cabh.org. That's for Counseling and Assessment for Behavioral Health.
All right, we will put that information and links to the websites in the show notes, along with the link to the Divorce with Respect Week website. Divorce with Respect Week is March 3rd through 9th. During Divorce with Respect Week, you can talk with lawyers, divorce coaches, and divorce financial experts for free to learn more about the divorce process and your options. Simply go to divorcewithrespectweek.com to find professionals near you. That's divorcewithrespectweek.com. I'm Tim Crouch, reminding you that collaborative divorce is a better way to untie the knot.